Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, let's dive right in. Today, we're talking about something that could quite literally save your home from an absolute disaster. We're looking at how you can proactively protect your living space from sudden, devastating plumbing failures. Our focus? A really fascinating and, honestly, increasingly essential piece of technology, the smart water shutoff valve. It essentially acts as a vigilant guardian for your home's entire plumbing system.
Now, I want you to picture this scenario for a second. You've finally taken that long-awaited vacation. You're relaxing miles and miles away from home, and suddenly, a pipe bursts in your upstairs bathroom. What happens next? Well, without anyone there to hear the water running or to shut off the main, the water just keeps flowing. It destroys floors, soaks through ceilings, and ruins your precious belongings. It's the ultimate nightmare for any homeowner, and it immediately sets up exactly why the stakes of unchecked water damage are just so incredibly high.
Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the cost of silent leaks, the anatomy of a smart valve, how detection actually works, some features beyond basic leak detection, and finally, picking the right system. Starting off with Section 1, the cost of silent leaks. Let's take a look at the hidden expense of unnoticed water. You know, water damage is so incredibly expensive, mostly because it spreads silently. It's not always some dramatic, loud pipe bursting like you see in the movies. Often, it's just a slow leak originating behind a wall, under a cabinet, or maybe near a washing machine. It can quietly soak into your drywall, your insulation, and your hardwood floors, going completely unnoticed for hours or even days. By the time you actually spot a water stain on the ceiling, the structural damage is already done, and the repair bill, yeah, it's gonna be massive. And that brings us to the unmonitored home risk, which is where things get truly catastrophic. Think about when you're on vacation, away on business travel, or if you're managing an empty rental property. The risk absolutely skyrockets when the house is empty simply because there's no one around to hear it drip or see a puddle forming. This perfectly highlights the absolute necessity for automated remote detection. Your home really needs something watching over it when you can't be there. Section 2, the anatomy of a smart valve. It's time to meet your plumbing's new brain. Let's demystify exactly what this device is. At its core, a smart shutoff valve is a motorized valve combined with sensing and communication technology. So the crucial takeaway here is that it's not just a passive piece of metal sitting on a pipe. It's an active, intelligent piece of hardware. It can physically shut off your water supply, all while continuously talking to your smartphone and monitoring your home's ecosystem. Internally, the anatomy breaks down into 3 key parts. First, you have the motorized valve itself, which acts as the muscle to physically stop the water flow. Next, depending on the model you get, it utilizes flow and pressure sensors. These monitor continuous usage and rapid changes in pressure to gather actionable data from inside the pipes. And finally, you have leak sensors. These are dedicated, usually wireless devices integrated into the system to spot local moisture right at the source, outside the pipes. Moving on to Section 3, how detection actually works. Let's trace the life cycle of a leak. I love walking through this sequence because it shows exactly how this system springs into action to protect you. Step 1 is continuous measurement. The system is constantly keeping an eye on your water flow. Then, Step 2 is a triggering event. Now, this could be sustained irregular flow where no water should be running, or a sudden pressure drop. That leads immediately to Step 3, automatic shutoff. The motor engages and cuts the water fast. Almost simultaneously, Step 4 happens, firing off a smartphone alert to you wherever you are. And finally, Step 5 is the manual reset. Let's talk about that smartphone alert and manual reset for a second, because it brings tremendous value. The smartphone app provides this highly detailed event log showing exactly what the system detected, when it happened, and confirming the shutoff was actually successful. Notice that the system requires a manual reset. You have to physically or digitally confirm the cause of the alert before services are stored. This is brilliant because it prevents repeated shutoffs by forcing the homeowner to actually fix the dripping faucet or the burst pipe first, rather than just hitting ignore on their phone. Section 4, beyond basic leak detection. Let's look at what makes this valve truly smart. A huge part of shortening that reaction time between a leak starting and the water shutting off comes down to placing dedicated leak sensors in high-risk zones. These are the usual suspects for plumbing failures. We're talking under sinks, behind toilets, near water heaters, and around laundry connections. By strategically placing these sensors right at ground zero, you give the system the absolute best early warning possible, catching a leak literally the second it touches the floor. Now, newer models bring some really fascinating advanced features to the table too. Some offer freeze protection, meaning they can actually detect the exact temperature and flow conditions that lead to frozen pipes, stepping in before they freeze and burst. They also feature usage learning. The system actually learns your household's typical patterns. This lets the smart valve effectively differentiate between a possible leak, like maybe a toilet running slightly longer than usual, and an active, severe leak that requires an immediate shutdown. And this perfectly highlights the core difference. With basic leak detection, well, the system simply notifies you of a problem. It might beep loudly in your hallway. Actually, that's completely useless if you're at work or out of town, right? But a smart shutoff valve pairs detection with intervention. It takes immediate action to proactively cut the water off to save your home, completely independent of human input. Section 5. Picking the right system. Here is a quick buyer's guide for homeowners. When you're evaluating these systems, there are a few key things you've really got to keep in mind. First off, check the plumbing compatibility with your home's existing pipes. You definitely want a system that boasts strong detection logic and highly reliable app alerts. But crucially, and people forget this, you must ensure the unit comes with clear manual override instructions. If the power goes out or the Wi-Fi drops, you need to know exactly how to physically bypass the smart valve to get your water back on manually. I want to highlight this quote directly from the source material. Evaluate how the device handles false positives, such as brief toilet refills. This is a great piece of grounded realism. You want a system with tunable settings so it actually matches your household's rhythm. If you have guests staying over and the showers and toilets are running way more frequently than normal, you do not want the system unexpectedly shutting off your water mid-shower just because of short-term heavy usage. And once you've made your choice, remember this final piece of advice. Plan your sensor placement carefully and make sure to thoroughly test the system after installation. A well-configured setup is what ultimately provides the fastest detection, crystal clear alerts, and a straightforward path to restoring your service once an underlying issue is fixed. You definitely don't want to just install it and forget it. Which brings us to the end of our explainer. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on today. Is your plumbing waiting to surprise you with a disaster, or is it smart enough to protect itself? Think about your own home setup. The technology is here, it is incredibly effective, and the peace of mind it provides is honestly unmatched. Thank you so much for joining me today, and here's to keeping our homes safe, smart, and perfectly dry.